Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Guru Grit. And continuing on with the theme of love for the month of February, I'm going to be focusing more on relationship themes, relationships in crisis, how to build, bond, and understand one another better. So I'm continuing on with book series, which I'm having a great time doing because I read them all the time anyway. So I thought might as well start making some videos, sharing the wealth, sharing the knowledge. If you're interested, I'm actually selling off my personal library on Etsy, and because Etsy is handmade or vintage things, I'm honoring that by selling vintage books. So this is such an example. This is Barbara DeAngelis. So if you're unaware, Louise Hay, who is like I call the fairy godmother of spirituality, she went to a seminar or a workshop by Barbara DeAngelis when she was starting to awaken and figure out her life. And she realized, what she was kind of doing and the patterns that she'd had formed in her lifetime that had led her to where she was. So basically, Louise Hay had issues with abandonment and things like that. I mean, she was abandoned by her father and mother, divorced when she was still a baby, I think. And then I've made a video talking about her life in great detail called Saturn Moon Conjunction. I think it's one of the first videos I ever posted. If you want to go watch that. We have a visitor. Speaking of the masculine, we'll be discussing feminine and masculine archetypes. But she then had a stepfather who was really abusive and sexually abusive and physically abusive and all these things. And she ran away from home at 15. So when she went to the workshop, she said, I was dismayed to find out I was just repeating patterns that my parents had taught me that I didn't want to be a part of. And the reason was that she came into her awakening because her husband left her for another woman. And this devastated her so much that she woke up. She couldn't stand her suffering anymore. So Barbara DeAngelis, this is the name of the book. This is the lady who authored the book. She's written, I think, 14 books, and I think she's been married 5 times, so she knows a lot. So it's called Secrets About Men Every Woman Should Know. Find out how they really feel about women, relationships, love, and sex. New York Times #1 bestseller. Okay, there it is, Barbara DeAngelis, PhD. So I've tabbed some interesting points in the book and some things I want to mention myself as well from other books that I've gathered. I just thought this was a great segue to give this information. So first thing that she mentions here, I've given up the point of reaction, how we react to each other and in the manner that we do it. He's sniffing books, oh my. Okay, so this is important because she explains that men are more oriented towards the result or the end point of something, whereas women are much more interested in the process. This is like, we enjoy the conversation, we just like to get into the details of all of that, whereas men just want to know, what's the point of this? Like, why are you telling me that or something? So if we could kind of try to understand one another better, like if men just kind of enhanced the listening ability or lived in the moment more of that conversation, let those details wash over you, it would benefit their relationship because the woman felt heard. And at times where the man was pressed for time and just kind of, well, he's really into books today, and was just sort of saying, look, I'm hungry and I'm tired, I don't have time, can I call you later? You didn't take that personally. They're literally just telling you they're hungry and tired and they'll call you later. It's got nothing to do with trying to brush anything off. And over time, of course, if you've been married for a long time, you know that you just get used to each other and things like that. But she means, you have to kind of curb this, we both have to curb our instincts and how we react to each other because they're going to be perceived differently. They're going to be perceived differently. So if you're doing this and you're not really conscious of it, or you're not very self-aware or emotionally intelligent or socially intelligent, then it can just kind of cause unnecessary kerfuffle. So she says, how men react, this is interesting. Sometimes when a man isn't sure of what he's feeling and you pressure him to talk to you, he will change the subject or verbally attack you, hoping to buy time to figure out, bless you, oh my goodness, big sneeze, or verbally attack you, hoping to buy time to figure out what's going on inside of them. So this I've lived myself. If a man's like, let's say somebody is growing cold, if you say to them, hey, I just want to talk to you, like, what's up? Why are you doing this or what's happening? They will turn it into humor, into a joke. They will try to make you look crazy. They will deny. Meanwhile, it's true. It's not because they hate you or something, or maybe, but probably not. It's because they don't really understand it themselves. They kind of have to go through this checklist mentally. So just leave it. Like the best piece of advice I ever got was from someone, and I said, but I haven't heard from that person in a while. And they said to me, no message is a message. That's a message, you know? And actually, when I was 11 years old, you know, the whole thing on, I think it's big on TikTok, people saying if he wanted to, he would. And everyone's like, that's not entirely true. I'm sorry to say, that is pretty much true. If I can, I will. Like, as a person, if I can, I will, you know? And if I can't, I'll let you know. But the point is that you let the person know you cannot. And when I was 11, a friend of mine said, I said, oh, you know, I wonder if my friend wants to do that project with me, if they'll call me so we can work on it together for science class. And she just said, if someone wants to call you, they will. There's really nothing to think about it. She was a little bit older and she's she's a Libra. She knows everything about relationships. And this proved true 25 years later. She said, yeah, if they want to call you, they will. Whether it's a friend, a family member, the lawyer, the tax man, it's going to happen. And it just made my life so easy after that. You know, I never had to wonder. I was never in that weird stage as like a teenager being like, is that boy going to call me or send me a message on MSN? It's like, well, if he didn't, he had other things to do that were more important. It doesn't have to mean that you're unimportant. It doesn't mean that someone else is more important to that person. You're just not there yet, you know? So it just demystifies the whole thing. Now, speaking of speech and articulation, she also says, do not be fooled by an articulate, well-spoken man. He may really be a frightened little boy inside who has a hard time expressing the simplest emotions. And this is quite important because there's different types of intelligence. So there's difference between like social intelligence, self-awareness, intellect. So somebody can be a scientific researcher or a computer engineer or a surgeon or a rocket scientist. It doesn't make them more intelligent than the average person. It doesn't make them relationship savvy. Okay, they've managed to do well in one niche area of their life or society. That doesn't mean that they understand the scope of relationships. So there's also some great videos and content out there on understanding the difference between being relationship oriented and actually relational. You know, some people are just easy to be around. They're just easy to hang out with. They're easy to get to know. And other people are pleasant and lovely and they want to be loved, but they don't really understand like how to share their time and share of themselves. Like these things are skills. So that's the first thing is do not be quick to assume. Do not be reactionary. So whether you're the man or the woman, and she even says, you know, for the men, if a woman says something like she's nagging or something, it's like, go deeper. Think about the emotion. Does she need your time? Does she need your attention? It doesn't make her a bad person. You kind of have to understand the nuances of one another, and they're both completely valid. It's just how you were brought up. It's maybe your personality or how you're kind of made. So that's all right. The next is understanding the masculine and feminine. So this is, I'm not even going to go from this book. I'm going to do something totally different. The astrologer in me today is just raging. I woke up on the right side of the bed and I sprung into action. So I read an amazing book that explains energy, love, sex, you know, patterns. And I've also, of course, I'm very well acquainted with Caroline Myss, who studies archetypes. Now, I myself am an astrologer, so I'm very familiar with archetypes as well. And this is something you have to understand between masculine and feminine. So what is the role between the masculine and the feminine? There is actually a role, and I know a lot of people are saying this is some, what do they call them? Like TikTok girlies and these like new feminine energy relationship coaches, da da da. The thing is, there is such a thing, and even if it's nuanced, it's still there, and even if it's really, really small, it is enough to break apart a relationship because the energy, I'm coming, hold on, sir, I'm recording. The energy has different needs. They have different needs, and they have different ways of expressing themselves, so you have to understand them. So what is the role of the feminine? The role of the feminine on earth is to hold the masculine accountable. So I'm going to say that again. The role of feminine energy is to hold masculine energy accountable. Because if it doesn't, it's going to run rampant and cause way too much destruction. So history does repeat itself, apparently. So naturally, what you have to understand is, let's take a very common example. Everyone's pretty much heard of Disney by now, so everyone's pretty much watched Beauty and the Beast, or at least heard of it. This is a very, very cool movie, and it's really, really straightforward. So here's how it goes. The man is literally not in his healthy divine masculine energy. He's a monster, he's a beast, he's an abomination, he's a creature. She is in her feminine, she's a woman. So she enters his realm, and she does what? She holds him accountable for his temper tantrums, for his bad behavior, from his, hold on, sir, for his lack of, I'm going to hold you accountable if you don't calm down. He's an Aries. He's just like a warmonger and he's so violent. But she has to civilize him. So feminine energy civilizes masculine energy. It holds you responsible. And this is how you evolve. So if you don't listen, you don't evolve, right? So interestingly enough, it's only when he listens to Belle, it's only when the beast submits to her perspective, submits to her intuition and her way of life, that he transforms himself. So once he's transformed from the inside, he transforms on the outside, right? So he becomes a handsome prince who's revered and admired and all these other things. Prior to, he was not. So ultimately, why don't you take a nap, sir? So ultimately then, you understand that you might be saying, oh, but he's a rich prince and he's handsome. That's why he gets the girl. No, 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 no. Because riches only make you more of what you already are. And the world is full of people on the internet and Instagram and in the media that are wealthy, and we think they're utter D-bags. So it can just make you, even actually, money and fame can make you less likable, not more likable. So never use the excuse that you're materially poor and you're not an accomplished person as to why you cannot attract feminine energy into your life. It's because something has to internally change. You have to understand. You have to listen to the subtle cues of the women of the world to get on that wavelength, to understand them. And only when you do that, then you can lead a relationship. Then you will be able to approach them with confidence and feel that you're very well received by them. So that is the answer. And another really good example is actually going to be things like, like I like Arthurian legends and all that stuff. So if you think about like noble knights and chivalry, the only really good examples that make it into lore, mythos, or history, quite truly, is true gentlemen. And they're all, even to this day, they're always like somehow had a hard life, or they're sort of brutal, and they're quite violent, and yet they have it all. They're like the man, they're the main character, they've got the woman, they've got the job, they've got the career. Why is the question? Is it because they're brutal? No, it's because they understand to wield so much power, you have to embrace softness. So if you're going to be the modern version of a warrior, is going to be a man in a suit, or quite literally professional fighter, like an athlete, or just pretty much it's a mindset. But let's take the idea of like a fighter, someone who's really powerful. Well, you train all day, you work really, really hard, and you understand you can exert a lot of force that can cause a lot of damage. So what civilizes you is choosing not to do that. Do you understand? It's like this perfect balance. It's a dance between the two. It's a dance between the two. The important thing to understand is you cannot force someone to be like that. So energy is very sensitive, of course, and it hears and knows all, and therefore you cannot force someone to grow and expand with you. If you have a man in your life who's not willing to understand these things, you don't have to sit them down and be like, listen, this is the archetype, we're screwed, You just say, hey, you know what, I'm speaking to you vulnerably from the heart. I'm putting aside all this other stuff, no ego. I'm just letting you know what this makes me feel, and this is what I really prefer to have in my life. And if they don't hear that, if you say, I don't want this for myself, I don't want this for my life, I want this for my life, I want this for myself, if they can't receive you, if they can't rise to the challenge, then you just have to leave. I'll tell you personally, I had a relationship where the person was really intent on putting me down about my ambitions and what I like to do. And I spoke to my best friend about it, and she says, but you know what? A real man would aspire to learn something about your hobby, because you can watch sports games with him all day long. It doesn't help him evolve as a man. See, he never took the initiative to get interested into reading or discussing the things that I'm interested in. He was threatened by this, so he had to put me down and make it kind of like a mockery of all the things that I'm interested in. But if you really wanted to rise into your power and step into your masculine, then you would accommodate your partner. You would accommodate each other. Because if only one person's doing the accommodating, it's not a fun relationship. Certainly not for the person who's doing the accommodating. They'll be the first to leave. So in this case, it's not, and this is on a societal level, society in general tends to mock things that women like, because aggressive, unhealthy masculine energy is running rampant in current day and age. So this is the reason why. It's not listening to you, right? But if you roar and scream to be heard, you're actually embodying more masculinity. So the best thing you can do is just be the best version of yourself, live for yourself, and the person who's willing to allow and support you to be in your energy, to be the best version of yourself, is just going to gravitate towards you. So never really try to make a point out of any of it. It's just a waste of your beautiful breath, whether you're a man or a woman. It's just not worth it. So understanding feminine and masculine principles in ourselves, okay, in ourselves, in our own energy balance, okay, that's also quite important to do. And next, it's opening up. So now we've got reaction. Hey, why does this person react this way to me? How do I feel about it? Next is it because I am projecting or I'm receiving that emotion? How do they perceive me? How do I perceive them? What is the role of these things? Now that you understand the role of those things, you also understand through evolution why female choice rules the world, because it's who you choose to embrace into your life and into your heart. That, like my friend said one time, she I was like, aren't you bugged out that like your partner of 15 years just like, and you broke up or whatever? And she's like, no, look at who he is because he was with me. Make no mistake, my love will make you a king. And I thought that is the greatest thing I ever heard. And it's true. Who you love wholeheartedly, pure love, will make that person just rise in life. And statistically, married men's trajectory just kind of explodes. You know, they make more money, they have higher social standing. So you should be picky. You should be very, very picky with your choice, because you're kind of like the whisperer, like the oracle. You know, you can kind of like foresee how well someone's going to do. So be very, very cautious of that. And naturally, you know, women make life. So whatever you give us, we'll make more of it. So if you allow partners in your life that don't treat you well, make you feel poorly, you're only going to cultivate more negative emotion towards yourself, first and foremost. Them too, but you are most important, okay? Same goes for men. If the man is always accommodating and he lets women into his life who don't respect him, don't respect his boundaries, they're socially violent, emotionally violent towards him, he's not going to have a good time. Okay, you have to step into your power. Next, I put opening up. This is quite interesting. There's only one way to help a man open up. He has to be willing to help himself. The Bible says God helps those who help themselves. That's very, very true. And he or she also says one of the biggest mistakes women make with men is deciding on an agenda for the relationship without informing their partner. So this is interesting because on the one hand, if you want someone to open up, you are basically saying, I want you to tell me how you feel and where we're going because I care about you. So what you're going to do is then say, well, tell me what you think and feel because I care about you, I want to be with you. But really the easiest thing to do is just say, I really care about you and I really want to be with you. And how that happens and whatever, we'll figure it out, you know? But that's a bit stressful, and I fully understand that. By societal norms, we all have expectations, and that's fine. I'm speaking about this from an energetic perspective. And when you leverage energy, you get everything you want in life. That's just the rules. I don't make them, but I know them now, so I'm sharing them with you. So basically, where was that quote again? There's only one way to help a man open up. He has to be willing to help himself. So if someone isn't ready, if someone isn't there yet, if they're unsure, if they're confused, you've just got to leave it. It's out of your hands. You should only focus on yourself. So basically, the more in tune you are with yourself and what you're wanting out of life, the more it will evoke it from the other person. If it doesn't evoke it from that person, it will evoke it from someone else. So you really can't lose when you're in alignment with what it is that you're wanting. You always get what you want. Isn't that right, Minky? Where is he? Yeah, he's squinting. That means the Zen master agrees. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps understand a little bit closer to the essence of relationships. And they're so important, I feel, in this day and age, especially where I live in the West, because we have so much of an emphasis on kind of like transitory relationships or transactional relationships, where we've really, really normalized like dating apps or casual relationships. And that's never really been done on such a massive scale historically, that I think a lot of people are kind of left burnt out and tired and unfulfilled. So they're always looking for an answer. Like, it's not that, you know, I'm not lovable, it's that I haven't found someone to love me. And they'll just keep swiping and they'll just keep going on dates. But ultimately, you have to leverage that energy. You just have to ask yourself, am I doing what's best for me? And who am I allowing into my inner space? So I'll leave you with this. If you wouldn't let somebody walk and march through your house with muddy boots after you've just scrubbed the floor with a toothpick, picked out every piece of grout, and then a toothbrush, don't do that to your soul. Don't let one person after another kind of come in and give them the right to disappoint you. You should really know what you are wanting, and unless it resonates, don't bother, because the minute that you say, I'm not having any of this, someone just kind of falls into your lap. That's everything you've ever dreamed of. It sounds wild, but it really is like that. And I just told my friend that story yesterday of a coworker of mine who, after a long relationship, was watching a show, a very popular like fantasy romance. This woman like travels back in time, and she said, you know what? I know what I want. I know what I want. And I said, you know what you want? You've been single for a week. And she said, I want a man who's tall. I want a man who's redhead. I want him to have a beard. And I want him to be from Scotland. And I want him to be younger than me. All the things that was in the show. And literally 1 week to the day, so she's been single for like 2 weeks, she sends me a text of a picture of this guy. She says, and she said, I'm not on any dating apps. I'm going to let it fall into my lap. I'm not on any apps. It's just going to fall into my lap. A man comes up to her who's working across the street, and he's tall. He immigrated here from Scotland, so he had the full accent. He had a beard. He was a redhead, and he's younger than her. And they've been together now for a few years, so everything just boop, 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 because in her energy, she just left no room for anything else. You know, she said, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, but I'm not thinking about that. I'm only thinking about this. So it's definitely possible. I have a million stories just like that that are honestly, if they weren't told to me personally and I didn't witness them, even I would have a hard time believing them, but they are true. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being with me on this learning journey of sharing and spreading the wealth and the knowledge. And I have my vintage books, my personal library. I put some up for sale on Etsy if you're interested in having a look at those. I have more readings up as of, I think tomorrow I'll post some more readings that have been sold out. I'll renew them. So thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I love you all. Bye bye for now.